Hey, time to get to work, y'all. Get this going. Yeah, come on. Let's go. Come on.
Go to sleep random. This man streaming with his mic off, face with tears of joy.
What up, Armani?
Why this man on so
Give me one, please. What? Say, oh God, Cole. Hey. Hey! It's because I'm in class, boy. God damn. Boom. What?
Heck nah, this man stay up all night.
Yo, I woke up at 11 o'clock at night. I didn't go to sleep yet. I gotta fix my sleeping schedule. I got classes all day, too. What? That boy wants to see a clip. Oh, it goes.
Time to get to work, y'all. Get this going. Come on. Let's go. Come on.
Damn, that's my fault. That nigga is cooking up. Jesus.
Hello, everybody. Would you start working your way back?
This man is finna take a L-fax.
Finish up our quick discussion of
How you hating, coach?
the high points of Chapter 8, and I'm probably going to hold 9 because I do want to get into Chapter 5
Scary?
a little bit. So that is my plan. So, okay, so let's head back to our guided pieces. There we go. You're looking at the pieces of our memo. Just give you a quick schematic. Sorry about that. Give you the quick overview of the different strategies. And we will review this again in chapter 5. Just a little bit of make this go. There we go. Okay. So, two big strategies, direct and indirect. So for direct, what you want to remember is that typically this is the way you, I guess, normally would write it. You write it directly. So from a situation standpoint, this is a positive or neutral situation where you're just going to write it, okay? And the opening, right? So if you look in your schematic, the opening is the main point, all right? I'm going to tell you directly. Here's the main point. And you're not going to have any typically negative emotion.
Yo, bro, I'm on like a 10 game right now, son.
Right, more sensitively. But this is the biff, right? This is the big idea.
I'm playing with randoms and I'm on like a 10 game.
We put the big idea right in our purpose statement. And you don't have to write this down. This is an example. I'm going to say this directly. XYZ Corporation, based on your successful self-leveraged business, will announce a future and bonus program.
Hey, no, mom's a hater.
Thank you. Now, since I told you you're getting a bonus, what happens? Well, I'm going to go to the body, like Balboa. Now I'm going to go to the body. And in the body, I'm going to start answering questions and giving you detail, right? So now the support comes. How much you're going to get, when's it going to come, all that kind of stuff, right? So the body has the supporting details, the reason, hey, we sold more than ever in history. Here's how you're going to get it. And at the end, we're going to close on a high note. Here's the good news. If it's for a good reason, just restate the positive point. Good, done deal. This is your everyday, regular flavored email.
Oh, a Senna? I don't know.
Right, written directly.
Easy cooks.
You also, there's an old convention from the days of paper memos, and some people still use it, but a lot of times the due dates or the important action dates are in the last paragraph. Think about when you applied, if any of you applied to scholarships, you went to the bottom and that's where they said you have to apply by this date, right? So don't be afraid to bold those or highlight those or have them stand off a little bit. Maybe you're going to restate that. You know, maybe you state it here, up here in the body, and then you're going to restate it down here at the deadline. I had employees that worked for me that would read the memo from bottom to top. Is that they would look and see when is it due, and then they'd see what do I got to do, right? They'd want to know like, oh, how is this like a tomorrow thing or a 10 weeks thing? So for a direct request, so there's a few different ways to use direct. You don't have to put these in your notes. I just pull out some highlights from your textbook. But for a request of information, you're going to state in the opening what you want. I want to know about apples. And then in the body, you're going to ask your questions. Right? I'm writing to you to find out more about apples. Body. Why are apples red? Why are apples green? Why are apples yellow? Why do they taste so good? Right? I just saw in the campus announcements that there is an apple day. I'm using this information because I just love apples. And then please send it to me. Please respond to my email. And then thank you. Right? Direct request. So some direct uses, and I think I've included these on your guided notes. So to get information, hey, please tell me. So right in the first paragraph, you tell
Give me one, please.
What you want. I need information about apples. You can also use a direct response. Oh, I'd love to tell you about apples. So responding to an inquiry in a positive or neutral
No
way.
way.
Or based upon your letter, here's the information you requested about apples. A claims letter. You may think because it's negative that you may want it to do it maybe indirect, but for a claims letter, you want to let them know what you want up front, right? I am dissatisfied because I had an apple and it was orange and it really wasn't orange.
What?
Darn it! Right, so right up front, let them know what you're dissatisfied about. You're going to fix it, right? So you can write that back in a direct response. Here is, thank you for your email and mistake. We are sending you 2 cases of Liberty apples. Delicious. Sorry about the mix-up. Oranges go to hazard. Right. Okay. So that's pretty straightforward. Sorry about that. I jumped too fast. But that should be listed on your handout there. Let me walk a little bit through the indirect approach. Indirect. This takes a little more planning because the idea is, you would use this in a negative situation. You'd also use this in a persuasive situation because the idea is I don't want you to say no yet. Right? The first question I ask in a persuasive presentation is something you have to say yes to. Do you have a problem that I could solve? Yes. Well, let me show you how to solve it. Right? Anyhow, we'll talk more about that in Chapter 5. So the whole idea, and you could add persuasive. I think I just
He's not
cut
playing.
off at part of the next line and I zipped it out. Write persuasive in this too. Persuasive. The idea, the way that it works is we're going to go through the problem together, or we're going to go through the situation together. So I asked you about that problem you had. You said, yes, you'd like it solved. Right? I know some stuff.
No.
This is the first line.
Please,
Would you like to
miss.
save some
Yes.
money? Of course. Right? So that's how, it's a persuasive presentation. But they're going to do it in an indirect way. They didn't say, hey, I want to sell you a Apple thing that makes energy, an Apple energy maker. Would that be a flux capacitor? Right? Would it be a flux capacitor? Yeah. So what I want you to think about is the difference between direct and indirect, because that's going to be some of my testing fodder. So in the opening, you do not with the main point. The indirect is the biff,
Sold.
right? The big idea. No, Bill. Indirect. Biff is direct. Bill is indirect. Big idea a little later. So, hold on. There we go. In the opening, I'm going to use something called a buffer. A buffer. And a buffer is sort of a neutral... right here, this guy. A buffer is like a neutral or positive statement.
Yeah.
And I'm going to give you an example of this here in a second. But you don't want to sound super positive because if you're going to tell them negative information later, you're going to sound like you're lying.
Ah, shit.
You're just buttering.
Fuck.
There's
I'm
a
bucking.
cliche for you, right? But so you don't want to sound too positive. Or it may be simple. This email is to describe the situation currently at Morrisville State College when it comes to apples, right? Something like that. So, no main point in the opening. Okay. But what you do want to do is create that connection.
There it
In
is.
a persuasive presentation, you would ask about, what the problem might be that needs to be solved. If you agree that this is a problem. Or you may even be, compliment them or be candid in your writing. We both understand that we've been working on this issue for many years, right? Apples, just not apples. Okay. So that's the opening. Now let's go to the body. So in the body is where you're going to have the main point. And remember, the main point is going to be negatives. So we're going to place, this is the rules for handling negatives from your textbook, and they think they're good rules, but I'll show you where to put them. So place them at points of low emphasis. Now you're not trying to hide it, because remember, it's not what you say, it's how you say it. But you're not going to start with it, right? So we're going to actually put it in the middle paragraph. repeat the negative point. We're going to tell them once, because trust me, they're going to get it, right? Avoid negative words, nods, and nods, and of course, avoid negative words with negative connotations. And the reason is that when somebody gets in a negative situation, when it is a sensitive or emotional situation, they're going to amplify the negative stuff, right? You've probably seen it happen. And you know how, like, negative on top of negative on top of negative, like, is exponential, not even additive, you know? So in our writing, we want to be careful. And that's the other thing, is that we're not there to explain it. We're not there to soften it, right? So we want to make sure we handle it well up front. So the body has 3 parts, just like an ant. Doesn't an ant have 3 parts? I think it does. So the body has 3 parts. So in that first part, and this is where sometimes people make a little mistake, I don't want the negative point at the beginning of the first paragraph or the first piece, right? I still want you to give me more information. So now I'm going to talk about the situation. I'm going to give you some data, right? I may add some detail, right, to like what I said in my buffer. And then this is a we thing. We. Right? If it's persuasive, I'm talking about how we want to solve this problem, right? That this problem is a big problem, and this is what it's costing you, and look at what we could do. Or maybe you should think about doing this. And that's where we put that in the middle. So in the body, in that middle part, is where I'm going to give the negative information. Here's the bill, right? So I'm going to give the negative information, but always, 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 you're going to go back to those excellent EQ skills that you have, and you're going to be tactful and sensitive. And if you're not sure, ask yourself, how would you want to find out? That is the way to do it, right? How would you want to get fired? How would you want to be told that you're not getting a bonus? Right? How would you want to be told that there's no more apples at Seneca? Right? So the bad is in that middle of the paragraph.
What the fuck?
Emphasis point. We don't want to bury it, but we don't want it to stand out like, right? Put it right there. We're only going to say it once, right? The best way we can. Now, we're not done though. Don't let the negative dangle, because then it's going to be right at the bottom of the paragraph. I'm going to keep looking at it, right? What you do now is you fill in that third part of the paragraph. Now that they have the negative news, now you can tell them some other things that you couldn't tell them before. So now you're going to add the detail, the actions, maybe answer questions of the why, what, how, where, and hopefully, because you've given them the information first, they've already sort of got to like, oh yeah, I guess there aren't going to be any apples, right? But you may want to answer some questions specifically. And then in the closing, you want to attempt to rebuild goodwill. And I know it might be hard, but you know, you're going to offer alternatives. I used to tell people of partner labor, whatever, right? But always be positive, friendly, concerned, and helpful. Even if they're the worst employee in the world and you had to get rid of them, don't go away, man, just go away, right? This is a professional business relationship. I'm not here to pile on. Right? And then typically enclosures is where you would, say, hey, we've also enclosed a copy of our, termination policy, or here's something from the Department of Labor, or whatever, something like that. Okay. And I think and I'm going to walk through a rejection letter, and then I'm going to walk through a bad news announcement. And then we'll watch a video. That's okay. Okay. So, rejection letters. So somebody says, hey, I want to know more about apples. You don't want to tell them. It's a secret, right? So you begin with a buffer. Hey, I appreciate you wanting to know more about apples, right?
Oh.
You don't say no, in the body. State the reason. Well, based upon this, because it's a secret policy, blah, 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 we can't tell you anything about our apples. We wish you the best of luck. Think about if you've applied for a job. I know many of you are going to start doing that. Some of you have started applying for internships. Think about how that rejection letter is written. It's written in a indirect fashion, right? And then close with some goodwill. So let me, this is based on one of our term letters. I changed it a little bit, but
Please.
It's not perfect, but I just wanted to use it because it was kind of authentic. All right, so here, I'm going to walk you through one of these letters. So here's the first paragraph. In the last month, through the efforts and sacrifices of our staff, XYZ Company has managed to maintain excellent customer service. And that is our buffer. Okay? Just a neutral phrase, maybe a little bit of compliment. Hey, wonderful. Now let's go to the body. Body part 1. I would never bold anything, but that's just for you. There's our transition word. In the last few months, changes in our industry with the consolidation of MMT and Starbane's manufacturing have created a glut of widgets in the market. We at XYZ have worked to minimize the impact of this market situation to our customers, employees, and stockholders. However, don't hold it. Falling sales and unexpected legal costs from the mega lawsuit have eliminated any hopes for a profitable year. As a result, XYZ will begin reducing the workforce in all areas beginning January 15th. So this is part 1 and part 2 of our body. Now remember, don't let it dangle, right? I didn't say fire, I didn't say terminate, reducing workforce. Now that you know that you're going to lose your job, what do we tell them? These reductions will be based on the needs of each department, the demands of the market, and the employee seniority. Although the company hopes to be offered laid-off employees' position in the future, there are currently no plans for this. Don't call us, we'll call you. Laid-off employees receive 1 week of pay for each year of employment up to 18 years. Right? And this is your part C. Right? So when you read the book, Who Moved My Cheese, you can see at this point we are moving with the cheese. There's a big change, and now people have to respond to that change. All right, let's close it up. This is my favorite part. I did not write this. My former CEO, the Admiral, wrote this. I thought it was quite nice. This reduction in force is not a reflection of your efforts or contributions. It is a result of changing market conditions that increase competition. You can be proud of what we accomplished. And, that sort of screams that we. And then he shovels it off to the HR person. I ask for your cooperation to make this transition as possible. If you have any questions, contact HR because they got to deal with it. And this is your closing. So, and then we met with each individual because that's a high bandwidth kind of thing. Okay, so this is on your notes here. So negative responses, we're going to tell them, we're going to thank them for the response, we're going to tell them no. We're going to thank them for the request, we're going to tell them no. We're going to thank them for the claim, we're going to tell them no. This is in the middle. And then sales and persuasive letters and bad news announcements. What time do I got here? Let me just do this relatively quickly. This is a real quick review. So a sample letter, I don't know if you guys, last time you guys even wrote a letter. Wow. But the thing is, everything's going with left block format, which is the way I would recommend to do it. And if you notice, see how it looks like a block? Oh, there it is. Left justified, so just like you did with your emails, everything on the margin, single space, double space between the elements, right? So you can see this is a double space. This line here, that's a double space. And then you make nice short paragraphs. Yay! Excellent. That's great. A memo is very similar, right? Except it's an internal document. So here is the internal part. Looks kind of like an email, doesn't it? Oh, yes. And it is left justified, single space, just like a letter. Double space between the elements, just a double space, not extra. Some of you put in quite a few, just 2. That's only, you just need 1. That's it. And then what's nice about an email or a memo typically is that it is pretty informal, so you can use numbers and bullets and all that kind of stuff. I just want to grab this real quick. You guys did well in your assignments, so I'm not that worried about it. Anything anything civil. So you guys, pretty good. Good introductions. Your closing can be anything. Just don't give me new information. I know in one of these I'm asking you to pretend that I don't know who you are. But be curious, concise, and just don't over punctuate. Don't get too crazy with your bullets, and don't be too informal. It is not a text. I don't care about that. All right, and that's chapter 9. All right, good. Chapter 9, I'm just not going to talk about it today because I want to get you moving into presentations because we're going to be doing those in a couple weeks. So I just want to at least talk a little bit about stress. Oh boy. So let me, I want to watch a video here about stress. Where is my... Oh, boy. Yeah, I can do this. Because I got 20 minutes, and I think the video...
Ooh.
Let me set along my videos. I think it's only like 12 minutes. I can do it. Okay, I can do it. Oh, all right. So let me share. And
Yeah, I gotta leave.
I need to turn on my sound for this. And it should be across decent. I put a link up on our Blackboard. So I'm going to move slowly into chapter 5 here. I'll come back to 9. It's a
Why your
report writing.
teacher so pause?
Nothing that... I just want to talk about some of the things you should consider when you're writing your report for me, but it should be a review for most people.
Oh, no.
So, chapter 5 is about giving formal presentations, and the handout that you have is for the live lecture only. I stay pretty close to the textbook in the summary lecture, but in this lecture, I like to give you like my personal rules. I won't test you on them specifically. They're just sort of, they're all kind of in the textbook. I noticed this edition, she's using a lot more of the rules that I have discovered. I didn't create them. I'm just finding them from different great presenters. But anyhow, whoa, snake. I hope it's scared anybody. So some of you, when I say the word presentation, you might get a little nervous, right? And that's okay. Presentations, it is even scarier than a rattlesnake. I know it's not a rattlesnake. The idea of making a presentation in public is the #1 fear reported by people in the U.S. Crazy. Top 10 fears, speaking for a group: heights, insects and bugs, money, deep water, sickness, death, flying, loneliness, and dogs. This is pre-COVID, so sickness might go up higher. But dogs, man, if you're a jogger, sometimes dogs. But speaking for a group is a normal fear. Mark Twain said there are 2 types of speakers, those that are nervous, those that are liars. I think we all get a little nervous.
Okay.
Now, I'm not nervous to do this because I've done this presentation many
It's
times.
a fucking demon.
Right? But when I have to do a presentation for the very first time in front of people that I may not know as well as you, I might get a little nervous. I actually fret about it a bit, right? So I practice. So what makes it scary? Now, a lot of you will feel the fear before you know why you feel the fear, right? But there are some things that we might worry about. Being judged, criticized, or laughed at. I think that's probably one of the big ones, right? You don't want to get up there and look stupid. Doing something embarrassing in front of people, saying something that people will never, ever forget. Well, the good news here is that I'm a professional teacher, and I say a lot of things that people forget immediately after I say them. So don't worry about it. The other thing is there is no video. There's no recording. No one will know what happens in this class, right? What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. And what happens at 300 during presentations stays there. Saying something stupid, the crowd will never forget. They forget. And then boring people sleep even when you say your best idea. You know what? You won't do that because you are going to be so well prepared. They're going to be excited to hear what you have to say. Plus, they're getting points to listen to you. So when you think about it, where does that fear come from? Well, from a human standpoint, we are standing alone, right? Which is, sometimes we do that. But we're in open territory, right? So, when you're up in front of the room, it's kind of different, right? Even if you try to hide behind a podium, you don't have a weapon in which to defend yourself because you're starting to feel this. And the part that gets most people is the eyes looking back. And that is not a normal position for most humans. You may have a few eyes looking back at you from time to time, but in general, when there's a loud crowd of creatures looking at you that you don't know, you get a little bit nervous. You could think, maybe I'm going to get eaten. I don't know. I hope not. No one's ever been eaten in any BizAv 300 presentations. It's totally true. True fact. Okay, but here's what I want you to know. The way that your brain works and the online lecture goes a little bit deeper into this, is that once fear kicks in, you can't do it like in the movies and say, well, I'm not going to be afraid and I'm going to save the world. It doesn't work that way. You got to write it out. So the idea is to not engage in the fear factor. All right? Don't get adrenalized. Don't get all those hormones that get kicked on when you realize you got to do a presentation getting kicked on. All right? How do you do that? All right? Well, you got to make stress your friend. And we're going to watch a video by Dr. Kelly McGonigal. And she's going to tell you about how to make stress your friend. Okay? But what I also want you to do is watch her presentation. Now, this is a TED Talk. This is a highly polished presentation.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
All the things that her textbook suggests that you do. So look at her style. I want you to count the number of ums and ahs, and guess what? It's not going to be more than 0. Watch her eye contact and posture. Watch how she uses her body to make her points. Watch how she uses her gestures.
That's green.
Listen to her speaking
Indeed.
pace. Think about if that's her normal speaking pace. And then I want you to look at the visuals. This is more of a chapter 6 thing. Look at the visuals on her slides. And then think about that. Okay. So I'm going to show you this TED Talk. And we'll be fine. We will finish up. Yeah, totally fine. Okay, here we go. Okay, how did that sound? Decent? Thanks. Fine, okay, here we go. Dr. Kelly, please.
What?
I have a confession to make. But first, I want you to make a little confession to me. In the past year, I want you to just raise your hand if you've experienced relatively little stress.
How
about a moderate amount of stress? Who's experienced a lot of stress? Yeah, me too. But that is not my confession. My confession is this. I'm a health psychologist, and my mission is to help people be happier and healthier. But I fear that something I've been teaching for the last 10 years is doing more harm than good. And it has to do with stress. For years, I've been telling people stress makes you sick. It increases the risk of everything from the common cold to cardiovascular disease. Basically, I've turned stress into the enemy. But I've changed my mind about stress. And today, I want to change yours. Let me start with the study that made me rethink my whole approach to stress. This study tracked 30,000 adults in the United States for 8 years. And they started by asking people, how much stress have you experienced in the last year? They also asked, do you believe that stress is harmful for your health? And then they used public death records to find out who died. Okay, some bad news first. People who experienced a lot of stress in the previous year had a 43% increased risk of dying. But that was only true for the people who also believed that stress is harmful for your health. People who experienced a lot of stress but did not view stress as harmful were no more likely to die. In fact, they had the lowest risk of dying of anyone in the study, including people who had relatively little stress. Now, the researchers estimated that over the 8 years they were tracking deaths, 182,000 Americans died prematurely, not from stress, but from the belief that stress is bad for you. That is over 20,000 deaths a year. Now, if that estimate is correct, that would make believing stress is bad for you the 15th largest cause of death in the United States last year, killing more people than skin cancer, HIV, AIDS, and homicide. You can see why the study freaked me out. Here I've been spending so much energy telling people stress is bad for your health. So this study got me wondering, can changing how you think about stress make you healthier? And here the science says yes. When you change your mind about stress, you can change your body's response to stress. Now, to explain how this works, I want you all to pretend that you are participants in a study designed to stress you out. It's called the social stress test. You come into the laboratory and you're told you have to give a 5-minute impromptu speech on your personal weaknesses to a panel of expert evaluators sitting right in front of you. And to make sure you feel the pressure, there are bright lights and a camera in your face, kind of like this. And the evaluators have been trained to give you discouraging nonverbal feedback, like this. Now that you're sufficiently demoralized, time for part 2, a math test. And unbeknownst to you, the experimenter has been trained to harass you during it. Now, we're going to all do this together. It's going to be fun. For me. Okay. I want you all to count backwards from 996 in increments of 7. You're going to do this out loud as fast as you can, starting with 996. Go. Go faster. Faster, please. You're going too slow. Stop, 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 stop. That might be a mistake. We're going to have to start all over again. You're not very good at this, are you? Okay, so you get the idea. Now, if you were actually in this study, you'd probably be a little stressed out. Your heart might be pounding. You might be breathing faster, maybe breaking out into a sweat. And normally we interpret these physical changes as anxiety or signs that we aren't coping very well with the pressure. But what if you viewed them instead as signs that your body was energized, was preparing you to meet this challenge? Now, that is exactly what participants were told in a study conducted at Harvard University. Before they went through the social stress test, they were taught to rethink their stress response as helpful. That pounding heart is preparing you for action. If you're breathing faster, it's no problem. It's getting more oxygen to your brain. And participants who learned to view the stress response as helpful for their performance, well, they were less stressed out, less anxious, more confident. But the most fascinating finding to me was how their physical stress response changed. Now, in a typical stress response, your heart rate goes up and your blood vessels constrict like this. And this is one of the reasons that chronic stress is sometimes associated with cardiovascular disease. It's not really healthy to be in this state all the time. But in the study, when participants viewed their stress response as helpful, their blood vessels stayed relaxed like this. Their heart was still pounding, but this is a much healthier cardiovascular profile. It actually looks a lot like what happens in moments of joy and courage. Over a lifetime of stressful experiences, this one biological change could be the difference between a stress-induced heart attack at age 50 and living well into your 90s. And this is really what the new science of stress reveals, that how you think about stress matters. So my goal as a health psychologist has changed. I no longer want to get rid of your stress. I want to make you better at stress. And we just did a little intervention. If you raised your hand and said you'd had a lot of stress in the last year, we could have saved your life. Because hopefully the next time your heart is pounding from stress, you're going to remember this talk and you're going to think to yourself, this is my body helping me rise to this challenge. And when you view stress in that way, your body believes you and your stress response becomes healthier. Now, I said I have over a decade of demonizing stress to redeem myself from. So we are going to do one more intervention.
Yes,
I want to tell you about one of the most underappreciated aspects of the stress response. And the idea is this: stress makes you social. To understand this side of stress, we need to talk about a hormone, oxytocin. And I know oxytocin has already gotten as much hype as a hormone can get. It even has its own cute nickname, the cuddle hormone, because it's released when you hug someone. But this is a very small part of what oxytocin is involved in. Oxytocin is a neurohormone. It fine-tunes your brain's social instincts. It primes you to do things that strengthen close relationships. Oxytocin makes you crave physical contact with your friends and family. It enhances your empathy. It even makes you more willing to help and support the people you care about. Some people have even suggested we should snort oxytocin to become more compassionate and caring. But here's what most people don't understand about oxytocin. It's a stress hormone. Your pituitary gland pumps this stuff out as part of the stress response. It's as much a part of your stress response as the adrenaline that makes your heart pound. And when oxytocin is released in the stress response, it is motivating you to seek support. Your biological stress response is nudging you to tell someone how you feel instead of bottling it up. Your stress response wants to make sure you notice when someone else in your life is struggling so that you can support each other. When life is difficult, your stress response wants you to be surrounded by people who care about you. Okay, so how is knowing this side of stress going to make you healthier? Well, oxytocin doesn't only act on your brain, it also acts on your body. And one of its main roles in your body is to protect your cardiovascular system from the effects of stress. It's a natural anti-inflammatory. It also helps your blood vessels stay relaxed during stress. But my favorite effect on the body is actually on the heart. Your heart has receptors for this hormone. And oxytocin helps heart cells regenerate and heal from any stress-induced damage. This stress hormone strengthens your heart. And the cool thing is that all of these physical benefits of oxytocin are enhanced by social contact and social support. So when you reach out to others under stress, either to seek support or to help someone else, you release more of this hormone, your stress response becomes healthier, and you actually recover faster from stress. I find this amazing that your stress response has a built-in mechanism for stress resilience. And that mechanism is human connection.
Yeah, come on. Let's go. Come on.
Yo, this is my last one, y'all. I gotta go to class and shit.
They also asked, how much time have you spent helping out friends, neighbors?
Oh yeah, good game. My agile boys though, y'all been putting in work. Word. Jesus, cooking. You cooking. See? Oh, that man. Shit, man. Niggas is working. 68. Gee.